It's like daily warfare in the ad account. It's not the ads that are a problem. Your product sucks or your offer sucks.
Talk about Meta's goal of end-to-end ad automation. Do you think that will happen?
Generalists are going to win because AI gives you specialist knowledge.
You kind of have to be the analyst and the creative.
I couldn't help but think about the Bear Grylls meme, which is like adapt, improvise, overcome. If you're not using AI to learn in 2026, like you're basically cooked. You ain't going nowhere in 2027.
Paid media used to be a game of control. Audiences, bids, placements, tests, and dashboards. In 2026, that game is changing fast. AI is taking over more of the campaign machinery. Platforms are asking marketers to trust automation, and the old levers are disappearing one by one. Meta reportedly wants to fully automate all of advertising by the end of 2026. While AI-powered ad spend is projected to grow much faster than traditional ad spend, but performance marketers are still on the hook for the same thing as always. Prove what worked, cut what didn't, and keep growth moving. So what does it mean to be good at paid media when the platforms are becoming smarter, less transparent, and harder to challenge? Let's find out. I'm Scott, and on Birch Talks, we focus on the human side of marketing work, share inspiring stories and specific frameworks to help you build campaigns that you're proud of. Today, we are joined by Shahbaz Khokhar. Shahbaz is the CEO of DTC growth agency Eleniac. He has also previously been a Meta UK advisory board member. So Shahbaz, I noticed from your LinkedIn, and it caught my attention that you were appointed a Meta UK advisory board member. And one of the first things I thought is, what is that? What do you do? Can you tell me a little bit about what that meant?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on. So I was appointed on the UK Board of Advisors, I guess. They were trying to look for a diverse mix of different advertisers, all the way from agencies to brands. There was a lot of like the well-known, recognized brands you can imagine in the UK on the board. All the typical like big spenders. And they were looking for some agencies as well to represent like an overview picture of like who is spending on Facebook. And it's just a sounding board for them to validate and check and roll out new initiatives that they're working on. So yeah, it was pretty cool to be involved with that. I got invited to the House of Lords, which I never thought I'd be in. House of Lords, House of Commons, I can't remember which one it was. The one next to Big Ben. But yeah, that was interesting. Went for a dinner there, and yeah, got to meet some interesting people off the back of it.
And you got invited to that based on your activity in the accounts. How did that work out?
Just spend a lot of money on Facebook, and then
Right.
I think what actually happened is we spent a lot of money. We got a rep, and then we actually hosted an event at the Facebook offices, and they liked the event. The event was about AI.
Well, Meta and AI are going to be key trends in this discussion, key threads of discussion. So just from your role in your work, your day-to-day, how, if at all, has it changed over the last year, 18 months?
As you were saying that, I couldn't help but think about the Bear Grylls meme, which is like adapt, improvise, overcome. It feels like that sometimes. It's like daily warfare in the ad account. With advertising costs going up continuously, competition increasing continuously, the volume of creative from top advertisers, like increasing and increasing. I think for me, it's not just looking at the ads in isolation. So it's also looking at, what landing pages are we running to? How optimized are those? Is the messaging on the landing pages clear and consistent with what's on the ads? Looking at the product and the offer that actually, often people are like, oh, my ads are not working, right? They'll come to me with like, hey, how do I fix my ads? I'm like, it's not the ads that are a problem. Your product sucks or your offer sucks. And like either update your product, improve it, give some customization around it, or the easier lever to pull is like come up with a good offer, so like have a multi-pack, a bundle, buy more, save more, discount above a certain order threshold, seasonal offers. So I think for me, it's more so now about you've got to be good at creative. Like that's a given. That's been the case for some time. But you've got to really get good at like coming up with a good offer that makes sense from a margin and from a consumer point of view. Once you've got a good offer and a good product, then you can really scale. So I'd say focus for me has been around offer testing, which naturally helps to build up AOV. So you can get a higher first order purchase. You can be much more, let's say, aggressive on acquisition. You can beat your competition. So if your competition has like an equal level of creative, let's say their creative is 8 out of 10, your creative is 8 out of 10, you're launching 100, they're launching 100. Well, then what other lever do you have to pull? The biggest lever is the offer. So if you get a good offer and you get people to buy more on the front end, you can afford to bid more given all other constraints being equal. So if you can afford to pay, I don't know, £50 or $50 CPA, versus your competitors who can only pay 45, then with all other variables equal, you're going to win in the auction.
I'm a little bit biased and I kind of have a narrow view on this based on my experience. But what it sounds to me like is that the role of many paid marketers is changed to the point where it favors the generalist marketer, at least right now, and not
Mm.
necessarily the specialist. I've worked through a period, particularly in marketing agencies, where the economy and where the skill set kind of favored the specialist a little bit more, but it feels like that's changing. I say I'm biased because I consider myself a generalist as well. What do you see? Like, have I summarized kind of a thought or what you're going through accurately there? What do you see when it comes to generalists versus specialists in the future?
Yeah, it's a good question. I totally agree, because also that specialist knowledge that used to be specialist knowledge is just so accessible through ChatGPT, Claude, and
Mm,
whatever.
yeah.
So all of a sudden, it's very hard to leverage that. And what comes into play is like your, let's say, critical thinking and decision making, knowing a bit about everything in terms of how it works. So in e-commerce, for example, like I'm analyzing not just the ads, which is usually what I get brought in to do is just, hey, look at the ads. And I'm always like, yeah, I can do ads, but have you got A, B, C, D, E, F, G? Um, but it's looking at things on it from a holistic point of view where, like I'm assessing like, the website, is there a conversion rate issue? Like, is there a site speed issue? Is the offer laid out very clearly with good UI UX? Is the upsell very clear? And is the value proposition of the upsell, does it make sense to users? Is there even an upsell? You'd be surprised at how many brands in 2026 are still not, really squeezing the orange on like getting the most out of like one single purchase. So I'm looking at like a whole range of things. I'm looking at email to see like, is that converting well? If it's not converting well, it means I can't spend as much money on acquisition because I'm not getting the retention legacy, revenue from a customer after they come on board. And then, yeah, how Google ads doing versus Facebook ads. I predominantly work with brands who are scaling heavily on Facebook, like it's usually 90% plus of their ad spend. But, is Google bringing in truly incremental revenue, or is it just like diluting what's happening on Facebook? So I totally agree that, yeah, generalists are going to win because AI gives you specialist knowledge, and you need to be able to make decisions across like multiple different factors, not just around ads.
Yeah, you kind of have to be the analyst and the creative. As I talk that through and talk about Meta's goal of end-to-end ad automation, do you think that will happen? We've kind of seen the steps towards it, but how far do you think we'll actually get?
Yeah, it was it was one of Mark Zuckerberg's mission statements. I think he released maybe last year. He said by 2026, all advertising is going to be automated by Facebook. You just plug in your product. I mean, we're halfway through 2026, and I don't see that happening. Like we have access to all the AI models. We're using, Kling, Cdance, Sora, Veo, all the image models as well. And I can say that even having access to all those models, which from my point of view are much further ahead than Llama, which is Facebook's model, it's not possible to fully automate the process, not right now. Will we get there? Everybody's asking the same question. I don't know. I think that there's still room for human creativity and like real content creators. I think AI definitely has a place to play in the content game, but I don't think it's going to fully replace. I don't think generative AI is going to fully replace content generation in 2026 for sure. And I think that just the content generation, um, the way that humans make content will just change. We'll move to more like really organic stuff, more live selling as we progress into like the following years. So to answer the mission statement of Mark Zuckerberg, like I don't think we're there. And also, it's quite hard for a big organization like Facebook to, if we're talking about generative AI here specifically, it's quite hard for a big organization to be really that innovative at like coming up with solutions to these things. And I've noticed better solutions coming from third parties, and even the third party solutions, as I mentioned, don't really have a fully automated process. There are of course like some good generative AI models. There's some good video editing AI models as well. You can use something called Remotion to do programmatic video editing, and you can get so far with it. And I think for certain types of certain ad concepts that work for certain brands, you can definitely automate a lot more than with others. But I don't think we're at the point where, you can do what people are claiming on LinkedIn, which is, hey, let me plug Higgsfield MCP into Claude MCP into Facebook MCP and have this like perfect trifecta of like automated ads, and you just sit back and do nothing. It's just not there.
But as you just noted, some things have changed. So you reeled off a bunch of models that you're using. Talk to me about that over this last couple of years with the introduction of AI and how that's impacted how essentially your creative processes. Number one, has it impacted your creative processes? And if number two is, talk to me about how it has.
Yeah, so I still recall when Midjourney first got released. I think it was over Christmas, not this year gone, the year before. So I think that's like what, 2.5 years. So that was the first time we started to use AI in ads. So we were getting content from Midjourney, and we were just trying different concepts that were feasible with the level of where the technology was at that point. We installed our own Midjourney server in Discord, gave access to everybody in the team, and we just started hammering generations. And throughout the whole series of the last 2.5-ish years of having access to Gen AI, the models have massively improved, of course. And I can't say like a fixed percentage of our content is made with AI, but let's just say a good 10-20% is feasible with AI now. Like I said, some concepts are a lot more feasible. So, for example, if you have, I don't know, a green screen commentator on top of a video, right? That green screen person, you can do that with AI, and because it's so small on the screen compared to the whole size of the viewport, um, it doesn't look fake. It looks real. It comes across
Right.
real, and the script is more important than anything else. So I'd say that kind of concept, for example, works really well, and that works well for mobile app advertisers, as an example. So then you can see that mobile app advertisers using that concept might have a higher than a 10 or 20% made with AI content. So it really comes down to what concept styles are working for a particular brand. But yeah, as time has progressed, we're for sure doing a lot more. We're continuously experimenting. Every single week, we're making ads with AI, but I can't say it's taking up the majority of the spend in the ad accounts. It's still the minority.
And so for that, that's for ad creation. How about for other aspects of your kind of creative processes, whether that's planning, analysis? Do you use AI throughout all those entire processes as well? Has that changed?
Yeah, yeah, of course. We're doing I mean, there's so many different AI tools we use. I use, for example, Triple Whale have got the feature called Moby, which is like super useful because Triple Whale basically aggregates. I'm not a salesperson for Triple Whale, by the way. They should send me an affiliate code after this so I can get commission.
Yep, should be.
Um, yeah, but it aggregates all your data sources and then it gives you a chatbot where you can just talk to all your data sources and it does your
Oh,
charting
that's
and
cool.
things like that. So I think it's really, really great. So I use that almost every single day. And then what else am I using? I recently connected Gorgeous MCP to Claude. So Gorgeous is a customer support management software. So Gorgeous connects to Claude and then I'm able to talk to my customer support tickets and like I can ask it, hey, what's the problems right now? Like why are people returning goods? Who's the angriest customer? Like give me the sentiment of like what's going on, why are people buying the product, things like that. So I'd find that that's really good. And more now I'm seeing teams setting up their own database. Either they're directly connecting into the MCPs of the channels, so for example, or the softwares. So for example, me getting a company Claude, connecting it to Gorgeous MCP or Meta MCP or whatever, or they're creating some middleware, which is basically having your own Google BigQuery database where you can query it using an AI model, and that aggregates all the data from the different places. So for me, for example, in the triple whale example, I'm kind of using that as middleware, where it's aggregating all the data sources, and then I'm querying that middleware basically. So there's a combination of different solutions like that, and then off the back of that, I'm deciding, it's hard to say like I'm doing one particular thing on a consistent basis because it's always chat based. So I'm always just asking it about a particular problem I'm having and trying to get it to help me to understand what's happening. But for sure, I'm using it to work out, profitability, which geos are good to scale into, which countries, which products are good, which offers are working, where I'm missing creative, where I need to launch more creative. And then recently, I've started to build our own proprietary like database with some prompts on top of that and some dashboards where I can start to plan out. Okay, I've got these concepts, I've got these products, make it into a matrix. Where am I missing content? Right? Where is content working? Where is content missing? And that's giving me the gap analysis on like what I should be doing next.
So I can hear clearly about your experimentation with software, and you just seem like someone that naturally like has this ability to learn or wants to learn and wants to look at efficient ways of doing things and creative ways of doing things. I want to talk about culture. So like how you then encourage other employees, team members to do the same thing. What when that comes to mind, and I say to you, this culture of experimentation with AI, what are some principles that come to mind for you that you think you've tried to instill within your team?
Yeah, good question. First of all, culture starts from the founding team, right? So it starts from the execs, the founder, and what their mindset is towards things. If they're just kind of like palming it off onto like the juniors, or the kids know what they're doing, let them just do it. If I hear that kind of language, it's a big alarm bell. This company's not got the right culture. Really, the most, and it's not even down to age as well. I've noticed that there's older founders who are successful who are like very experimental. It's down to like how willing are the founders to get stuck in to build their own Claude skills or little apps or like to code things or to just problem solve to do Gen AI, you know? So I'm always like, for example, me as a founder, a CEO, consistently experimenting myself. And you have to lead by example. If you do that, then everybody else in the team follows naturally. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you can incentivize people to do it. So we have in the past I've used an app called Matter App. Again, I should get an affiliate commission. Um, Matter App is a Slack application, which basically you install into Slack and it gamifies rewards. So basically, you can give people tokens for doing certain things. And as a CEO, I might say, hey, I've got this particular challenge this week. I'm going to give 100 tokens to somebody who solved this challenge using AI. Or you get one of your managers to basically administer a challenge where you're like, hey, we've got this new model that's been released. We want everyone to enter a piece of content. The person who's got the best bit of content will give them some tokens. And you can make shout outs in a Slack channel basically where you give the tokens. They can then redeem them against like a number of different retailers, Nike, Starbucks, whatever. So I think second thing is, yeah, gamifying it and rewarding. So yeah, top down, founder driven. Second thing is that. Third thing is like I'm always just looking at doing work as efficiently as possible. You know, the best companies have the highest revenue per head count. What that means is like those ones have got the most leverage on technology, the most efficient on doing they've got the most efficient way of doing things. So before adding an extra head, I'd prefer to create that X% extra efficiency, you know? So what that means is enabling people with tech. So what I normally do is I do all my own software approvals. So what I do is I have an app. It's like a spend management tool. I use Airwallex. There's loads out there. Where if anybody wants to experiment with the tool inside the company, they just basically push the expense to me. I approve it. I have like a rule to myself. I always definitely always approve same day. I try and approve within the same 2 hours. If somebody wants to experiment, somebody sends me a message and I just go on the app and I press approve, and they can go and set up the software, give administrator. My head of ops gives the administrator privileges to whoever is needed. And I know it sounds very granular, very like just like admin, but like me as a founder, unblocking the experimentation with new software as fast as possible creates a mindset with people that there's no friction to actually getting something set up. Whereas I've noticed in a lot of other companies and clients I've worked with in the past, a team member might be like, hey, if we've got this software, we could do this thing way more efficiently. And then it takes like, a month to get it signed off or something. By that time, something new has come out or the energy behind the idea has disappeared completely, which is why I try to get it approved as fast as possible.
And what's the criteria you look for when someone sends you a request? So, like, talk to me about what goes through your mind, your thought process when you're like, okay, should I approve this or not?
Yeah. The honest answer, I'm using heuristics. So first of all, I'm looking at the person who's requested it and what their previous history is in the company. And like, do they understand like how to make a good decision? If I know it's come from a certain person, I just even approve it without even checking. I'm like, I know that person's going to have a solid idea. I will always just try to consider, like, try to see the end point of what they're trying to achieve. If they're telling me, hey, I need this software, the question I always have with them is like, okay, what are you trying to achieve? Because sometimes they don't have full, if you've got like different teams, sometimes people don't have full context on like other softwares and tools that are available that could maybe solve the problem. So you have a lot of tools which, for example, are an AI wrapper, right, that just sits around a model. It's like, well, maybe you could just build a Claude skill and we could give it accessible to the whole company. So that's like one thing I'm conscious of. But yeah, I guess like ultimately I'm depending on the team to make the decisions, and often if I just want to test something out very quickly, I'll approve a 1 month fixed balance card. So you get virtual cards with a fixed balance on it, and you just approve like a 1 month worth of expenditure.
That is very smart. I like that. And I'm smiling because sometimes I'm in these conversations. I'm like, I'm going to do that for myself. Yeah. Love that tip. Also, just this idea, like you said, I think some people feel bad applying heuristics to decision making in teams because I hate this idea that you should treat everyone the same. I think some people should be treated differently when you are a manager. Some people require different amounts of your time, skill, input. Some people you can trust implicitly. So really, I think the reason I like that is because it plays into this principle that I have in that you can treat people differently as a manager, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's where it comes from for me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Look, I mean, there's I can't remember what the theory is called, but there's something like I think someone said that like basically it's kind of like Pareto principle. Like 80% of your value is coming from 20% of your employees, and if you skew it even further, it's probably like 90% is coming from your top 5 employees. And I think that's like
Mm.
almost in every company. Yeah, I think like if those top 5 employees or that top 20% who's consistently performing is giving you a suggestion, you don't want to get in their way. You just want to say, hey, yeah, approved as fast as
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, you don't want to be the bottleneck for it.
You know, it's usually the people who are scared of new technology are the ones that get replaced. And that's the truth of it, right? Because the ones who are excited by it see the opportunity and they're the ones who actually create the most value. So I think it's just a mind frame shift of people realizing that AI is like a once in a lifetime. It sounds a bit cliche, but like once in a lifetime opportunity, it really is. You know, it's like the birth of the internet was a big thing for us in my lifetime, and then
Yeah.
this next one is definitely the birth of AI. Like it's inevitable. It's going to completely change how we do our work over the coming years, and the rate of improvement is exponential. We're not talking about like a 10% improvement every year. It's like it's got 100% better every single year, or like even more than that. So I think the value in the world, and especially within marketing, where we use a lot of different software and tech and databases, the value will go to the people who understand how to use and leverage AI as much as possible.
I'm going to go on in a moment to some more specific, like meta ad format related questions. But before I do that, another thing that's coming to mind for me is that it does take a lot of time to learn and retrain and experiment. And I'm wondering how you do that for yourself. So that's like specific resources, if you have them that come to mind that anyone watching or listening can, maybe just your recommendations, things that have helped you learn. And then the kind of a loaded question, the second part of that is, do you have like a routine of learning? Like, do you have an approach to learning for yourself? Like, I do like a minimum of an hour a week on a Friday related to just
Mm.
AI related stuff. Anything like that?
Do you know, I wish I had a really nice answer for you, where it's like I woke up at 5 o'clock every morning, including this morning, and I like sat and read a book for an hour, and then I watched a YouTube video for another hour and
Oh,
a
I
part.
wouldn't believe I never believe the 5 a.m. wake up people. Don't believe it.
You know, I think like when I do anything new, I try to, of course, look on YouTube, and there's like a lot of YouTubers who I respect who've got like good content, but it only takes you to a certain level. And I tend to find like on any particular topic, and Facebook ads is definitely like in this category. Like 80 to 90% of the YouTube videos are kind of trash. They're just really selling training, and they are just entry level. So you should ignore all of those. The esoteric knowledge comes from like very niche channels where you've got 5K subscribers or something like that, or 20K subscribers. So I think finding those niche channels is good. But there's a saturation point at which you don't really learn anymore. And I think really and truly the only way to learn is just hands on by like doing stuff. And you know, of course, AI is a learning tool now. If you're not using AI to learn in 2026, like you're basically cooked. You ain't going nowhere in 2027. You need to be asking the questions of AI. You need to be like, okay, how does this work? Explain it to me. Show me. So for me, continuously communicating with AI is much more efficient way of learning than reading a book on marketing. Reading books on marketing, I can only say I've read like a handful of books, and I'd say the two that stand out the most are on copywriting specifically, and those would be breakthrough advertising, which is there's only very limited publishing on it of it, so it's super expensive, and then cash advertising. Like those are really the only two books you truly need to like understand the core principle of like advertising and copywriting. I find like reading books like that help you to get in the right mind space. It's more like they give you the time to stop and think about stuff. For me personally, I prefer just to learn from talking to AI, chatting with AI, watching some YouTube videos, and then getting hands on with actually experimenting. And because there's knowledge you pick up from experimenting that you just don't get anywhere. You can't find it anywhere on the internet. Sometimes it's not even on AI. And with that as well, networking. So talking to people who are also other operators who do something similar, where you can just ask them very specific questions, and they're going to have some take on it. Whereas if I go to somebody who's just starting in marketing, the answer I'm going to get is going to be very, very base level.
One question, this might seem like a bit random in context of what you just shared, but I'm thinking about how my interactions with AI on a daily basis have changed. And now I actually travel a lot more and I'm doing a lot more on my phone because of AI and my ability to like chat with AI on the go. I'm just curious, with all of the things that you use and do, have you noticed any device related changes in the way you work?
Yeah, I mean, I'm naturally talking more to ChatGPT, of course.
Yeah,
Sometimes when I'm in the car, instead of putting on the music, I'll just like have a quick conversation with ChatGPT.
that's interesting.
Off, yeah, often it's just to deposit an idea. It's like, oh, I've got this idea. Let me just dump it on you before like I forget. So I'll just quickly just have a quick chat with ChatGPT, and then it gets stored to its memory. And the reason I use ChatGPT is not because it's better than Claude or anything. It's just because I've got so much context and history in there that is very difficult to then switch. So I'd say, yeah, like in a combination of conversations I've had in there have been very useful. I do have the Fireflies meeting note taker, which I connect to its MCP to ChatGPT, which means that if I want to talk to any of my meetings, if I want to kind of relive the meeting or
Oh yeah.
find out what was going on or recall some information, it's like really useful. I know you can do that in Fireflies, but ChatGPT also has the context of all my history of what I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm using it for that. I think that people are falling into the trap of just trusting its opinion when it's really just a mirror that mirrors back your own opinion on yourself. It very rarely gives you critical thinking. If you want like more critical thinking, and I just say like inverted commas because how much critical thinking can AI really do? But if I'm on the spectrum of like, more critical thinking, I'd use Grok. So I have Super Grok as well. And I use that more for like it to challenge me. I'm like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Am I right or am I wrong?
But why
Yeah.
Grok for that?
It's just a bit outrageous, isn't it? It just says what it wants to say. It's more opinionated.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't really used Grok more recently. I just know that it has more of the leeway when it comes to like yeah, like you said, its ability to challenge and confront. So maybe that does make it a good
Yeah.
natural like critical
Yeah.
thinking partner in that respect.
It's got like the default different conversation styles, and one of them is like argumentative.
Right, that's
And
funny.
it's so sometimes if you just want to like hear an opposite opinion, tell it what you're thinking, like what you passionately
Oh, that's
believe,
interesting. Yeah.
and then go on the argumentative mode, and it's just going to tell you you're wrong, and here's all the reasons why.
Yeah. That makes me laugh. I will try that actually. With going into meta ads more specifically, so a little bit more granular and looking at the trends related to formats and hooks, and in general, the kind of in ad changes that you're seeing, AI and non AI related. You mentioned a moment ago, just as a starting point, about the kind of user generated content style or like avatar style of AI. And I want to make sure I understood this correctly as well. Were you saying when you were talking about avatar creation that the ads maybe perform better on for mobile ads because of the screen size, and it's like less if it's on a bigger screen, it's more obvious that it's AI? Is that what you were kind of alluding to there? Talk me through that.
With the green screen concept specifically, so we've
Yeah,
got talking head on top of a video, then yeah,
yeah,
like on a mobile, it's smaller. I mean, most of the traffic we run for the brands we work with is on mobile anyway. So it's like usually
yeah.
90% of the traffic. So really, I'm always just thinking mobile first, and
Mhm.
so that particular concept, yeah, it does work well on mobile because of the size.
That makes sense.
There's like non-obvious ways of doing it. Another example that comes to my mind is like if you're doing a fashion brand, if you can take visuals of neck down, like let's say like here downwards, or just of like the body and the clothes, you can't really tell that it's AI or not. It's usually the face that gives it away. If
Yeah,
you've got any visuals where it makes sense to show neck down, that works. If you're showing from like the back, so like if you've got the back of the product, the side of the product, where again it's the side of the face, that works really well. So I think like choosing specific concepts allows you to get away with things not looking as real. And I've seen some very realistic looking UGC nowadays. Like we can get it to be like super real. But I'd say that's more so for statics than opposed to for videos. For videos, if you look closely enough, you can still tell. That being said, depends on the audience. Like an older audience, boomers are finding it hard to tell the difference, and they're still converting better off that kind of content than a younger audience.
yeah, that's really interesting to think that through and think about the difference in how things appear on mobile compared to desktop. And I go to the movies a lot, so I've started to notice like AI being used in adverts, in movie adverts on the big screen. And yeah, sorry, go back into just general trends across ads and what's changing, things that are popular, techniques. What comes to mind when I when I ask that? What's changing in that space?
You know, I think it's just the same as it's always been. You've got to have good quality creative that's worth watching. You've got to feel compelled to want to watch it. The more real and raw the content is nowadays, like that's just working well. A lot of like somebody just talking about the product in their bedroom or like ranting to the camera, like car rants and those kind of things. Like if the person comes across genuine and then they're really talking about the product in a good way, that kind of content is just still winning. That's still massively like the top performing stuff. You need to have a lot of diversity. I feel like this is just like it's well-known knowledge by this point, but since the Andromeda update, they've been really pushing everybody to have creative diversity. which means having like various different types of formats in the ad account, from highly polished stuff to more lo-fi to images to videos to just all the different, ad angles and different types of creators. So your content needs to look visually diverse. If you look at it from a zoomed out point of view, all needs to look very diverse to get the maximum coverage in the algorithm. So I can't say there's like one particular hack or like tactic that works. It's more like this should be good quality content, good storytelling, good problem agitate solution, good like sales frameworks behind like what you're trying to message you're trying to get across behind your ads. And then naturally, good hooks are still bringing in, you know, people to watch your content. The higher your hook rate, the more volume of people are going to watch to the end of your ad. Those principles haven't changed.
Yeah, those principles definitely haven't changed. And I'm just curious if you have noticed the same, just spending so much time in this space, that the focus on hooks and that immediate 1 second impact, that's what seems to have changed over the last few years. Just, hooks have always capturing people in 1 to 3 seconds. But now it's like people jumping at the camera in the first, like, or putting the product in front of the camera like that, or the audio associated with it. So just actually the increase in volume at the beginning of that 1 second. And it just seems to be like really extreme now. You kind of scroll through and it's like bang, 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 that first 1 second. Have you seen that change at all?
Yeah, I think a good hook is still going to make a good ad. It's funny because hook rate doesn't really correlate to performance in terms of revenue. But if you
Yeah.
have a low hook rate, you're probably leaving money on the table because less people are watching to the end of your ad. The volume, if you look at that curve of like people who watch at the start to people who watch at the bottom, an
Mm.
ad with a lower hook rate is going to get less people watching to the bottom of the ad, to the end of the ad. You've got to be careful not to just get a high hook rate for the sake of it, because then you just get the wrong type of audience. You can very easily make clickbait style hooks and get a very high hook rate, but that's not going to necessarily bring you conversions. I'd say like relevancy to the thing you're trying to promote is important. So often just showing the product in the hook is still a really good solid way of getting attention. And yeah, when you mentioned 1 to 3 seconds, yeah, I remember reading something which was like, it was called the doorknob test. Is like, how long does it take you to turn a doorknob? 0.3 seconds. That's how much time you have to get somebody's attention. It's like you get data people who try to analyze the socks off a creative with like data points and try and tag it all up and stuff. Yeah, and I do get it. Like you do need some tagging and categorization, which we do as well. I think beneath it all, you've just got to watch the ad and say, does this make sense? Like people have forgotten that you should just actually watch your ads. If you're a founder of a top DTC brand, you should be watching your own content all the time. You should be trying to improve it somehow. Like, does this ad actually make you want to do something? Does it feel compelling? Is it giving you energy? Is it giving you the right vibe? Is it giving the right pain point across? Are you having some emotional reaction to what's actually happening here? And these things you can't really dissect with AI or like data. You've got to like just watch the content. And I think if you watch enough content from a brand, you start to understand what's working and what's not working, because you just get like almost like a sixth sense for it. And the better you know your audience, so like the more you speak to your customers, like as a founder of it, you'd be surprised how few founders will pick up the phone to a customer. Like it's so rare. But I've seen some very successful founders who have done it. And I remember like I spoke to one in particular, and I think his business got to over 100 million in the first few months. I think he pretty much called every single customer. He was like, why did you buy my product? Explain. And then he used it as an opportunity to upsell as well and promote more product. But I think that the founders who are the most connected from the top of the company through to talking to customers are able to unpick all the problems very easily. And it also informs your content strategy and your messaging and all those kind of things.
I have one question because you just triggered the thought process. Where do you go to find competitor ad examples or like, yeah, scrapbooks of competitor ads? What do you use?
So, I mean, ad library, of course, Facebook ad library. You can search by keyword as well as by the brand name. So it's quite useful to do that. We use the app Foreplay, which is used to like save ads from the ad library. That's pretty useful just for compiling boards. It's like a Pinterest for ad library. Honestly, like once you're in a vertical and you're doing ads for a particular brand, you're going to get targeted on your feed consistently with brands from that category. One good thing to do is actually make a fake Instagram page and follow all the pages of the competitors and kind of like all their posts and stuff. And then you're naturally going to get a feed that's curated in a way which is targeted to somebody who might buy that kind of product. And you start to feel like you are that person. So I think that's a good way of finding the brands. And then, yeah, just AI search, just find me brands that are similar to this in this vertical. That always spits out some extra examples that I was like, oh, I didn't know that brand was there. That's pretty much most of it. Google search. There is Charm.io where you can pull out like a whole list of like every Shopify store, and you can just bracket it by like revenue per vertical. And if you want a really complete list, that is how you get the really complete list.
You've shared so many good resources. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Before I let you go, you know the drill. Where can people find you if they want to contact you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, my full name, Shahbaz Khokhar, or you can find me on Instagram, Shabarapta. I'm sure we'll link it somewhere around the video.
Yeah.
Yeah, always open to conversations about e-com and scaling.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the time. And this has been Birch Talks.